Okay, good evening. We continue tonight with the Planning and Development Committee meeting. I'm in the chair as Councillor Jacquinot is zooming in virtually. So I'll call this meeting to order. Are there any disclosure of pecuniary interests? Seeing none, do we have any motion for the approval of the meeting agenda? Moved by Councillor Plummer, seconded by His Worship. Any questions, comments? All in favor? Carried. We have approval of the minutes for the Planning and Development Committee meeting of December 3rd, 2024. Moved by Councillor Plummer, seconded by the Deputy Mayor. Any questions, comments? All in favor? Carried. Any business arising from the minutes? Seeing none. We have one item of business tonight from Director Soriel dealing with Bill 185, lapsing of the draft plan of subdivision. Director Soriel.
Thank you. So this report is to provide Planning and Development Committee members with the city's potential for residential development. Development of these lands that we'll be talking about would lead to increased tax revenue for the city. So a report was submitted to the Planning and Development Committee in August of 2024 regarding Bill 185 and its changes to the Planning Act. So Bill 185 introduced several changes to the Planning Act, and one of them was municipalities are no longer required to require pre-application consultation meetings with developers and applicants. So the city did amend the official plan so that pre-consultation meetings are no longer required. One of the other changes of Bill 185 were the application fee refund requirement, and that was introduced by Bill 109 for failure of a municipality to decide on a zoning bylaw amendment application and site plan applications, and that has been repealed as of July 1st, 2024, so we don't have to refund applicants anymore. Thirdly, there was a previous bill that eliminated third-party appeals, meaning neighbors, so that they are no longer permitted to appeal minor variances and severances. Bill 185 now extends that prohibition to zoning bylaws, zoning bylaw amendments, and official plan amendments. So only specified persons can appeal, and again, neighbors can't. So the discussion tonight is currently the Act permits the approval authority to include a condition that the approval of a draft plan of subdivision application can lapse after a minimum of 3 years. And the proposed new provisions also puts a time limit now for site plan approvals, unless a building permit has been issued. So proposed provisions would also apply retroactively to draft plans of subdivision given approval on or before March 27th, 1995. Therefore, the government has said 3 years after the Bill 185 has come into force, which was June 6, 2024, those draft plans of subdivisions which received approval prior to the March 27, 1995 date would lapse without the ability to apply for an extension. So this report is to give the committee an update on the existing draft plans of subdivision in the city and their lapsing dates. So the first subdivision that I'll deal with tonight is the Johnson Meadows subdivision, which is off of Boundary Road. The original draft approval was received in August of 1993. However, there were new draft plan conditions that were issued in 2022 for the fifth and final phases. So phases 1 to 4 have been completed. The last phase of this subdivision consists of 103 units, and there is no subdivision agreement in place at this time for Phase 5. Therefore, the lapsing provision of the draft plan approval would not apply to this subdivision. The second subdivision is Vintage Homes. It's located at the end of Dieuville Drive. It received draft plan approval in 1990. And this subdivision proposed 358 units. So based on the 1990 draft approval and according to Bill 185, draft plan approval for Vintage Homes will expire for this subdivision on June 6, 2027, if the developer doesn't register a plan of subdivision or enter into a subdivision agreement with the city prior to that date. Thirdly is Westwind subdivision off Stewart Street and Forest Road. It received draft approval on April 12th, 1995, so just after the March date. This subdivision proposed 45 townhouses. The draft approval was given after the March 27th date, so it doesn't apply, the lapsing provision. There are no subdivision agreement in place for this land. However, the land was recently sold, and rental units in the form of semis and townhouses are being built on this property. The fourth subdivision is Burcombe Developments, which is off of Blakely Crescent. It received draft plan approval in 2015 and again was amended in 2023. This subdivision looks at 128 lots for single detached dwellings. Based on the draft plan approval date, the lapsing provision of Bill 185 would not impact this subdivision. Fifthly, we're looking at LaPointe subdivision off of Boundary Road West. It received draft plan approval in 1997, but again was amended in 2019. It's a 46-lot subdivision for single detached dwellings. There is an approved subdivision agreement along with a registered plan of subdivision, which was registered on title in 2023. So Golfview Land Developments received draft approval in 2011, and then it was amended several times, and the last time being 2022. Phase 1A has an approved subdivision agreement for 96 townhouse units, but a plan of subdivision survey has yet to be registered on title. Phase 2 received draft plan approval in 2011, and that phase consists of 1,106 units. So the lapsing provision of Bill 185 will neither impact either Phase 1 or Phase 2 of the subdivision. There's also another section, there's Section 50, subsection 4 of the Planning Act that states council of a local municipality may by bylaw designate any plan of subdivision that has been registered for 8 years or more, which shall be deemed not to be a registered plan of subdivision. So the only registered plan of subdivision that has not yet been developed is the LaPointe subdivision. And this subdivision was registered in 2023, so it hasn't been registered for the 8 years or more, so this section of the Planning Act wouldn't apply. So finally, based on the attached summary that's in your agenda this evening, there is a potential of creating 2,500 new residential units in the city of Pembroke. The city does not have the ability to force the owners of the land to develop, so the owners wish to develop until the owners wish to develop, the land remains vacant. So you can see in the attached summary all the different pieces of land that are available for development and at the different stages that it is developed. But again, if everything was developed, you're looking at about 2,500 units.
Any questions for Director Soriel? Okay, if council will permit me to comment from the chair, I think this is rather frustrating, to be honest, that we have this many possible units, and in some cases a lack of building for a number of time. But I know from my own research that we're not the only ones in this position, which is actually why I'm assuming some of these new provisions have come into place. The province sort of encouraging people to move forward. Unfortunately, they just don't seem to help any of our current ones. So maybe the province will revise their planning tools. Certainly, they've, unfortunately for Director Soriel, they have been quite active in the planning world of this current provincial government. But at the moment, I do think it's quite unfortunate, and certainly the city goes to great lengths to work with our developers, and Ms. Soriel, your department is doing an absolutely fantastic job. I know the amount of work that goes into these developments and the pre-approvals and the meetings and the these things don't happen overnight, and you and your department are a huge and integral part for that. So certainly I thank you for that, and I'm sure the rest of council thanks you for that. And yes, hopefully we see some building. I think Planning and Development Chair Jacquinot would like to jump in. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was recently in conversation with the president of Golfview Developments. He is coming to see the mayor and have a chat with him closer to the end of the month. He's presently working on a rather large development just outside of Toronto, and he assures me, and we've been in contact over a number of years, and his company particularly has spent multi-millions of dollars. There's a sewage treatment plant in place. I believe that he's ready to go, but we hear that quite often. We're ready to go. but I think there'll be some very, very good and optimistic news that he'll be able to share with the mayor. I'm sure that the mayor will be bringing that forward to council. So that's just for your information. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair Jackno. Any other comments, questions? I will entertain a motion to adjourn, moved by the Deputy Mayor, seconded by His Worship. All in favor of adjourning? We are adjourned. Thank you.
Welcome to our January 7th Finance and Administration Committee meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Is there any disclosure of community interest and general nature thereof? Seeing none. Motion to approve or amend the meeting agenda. Councillor Plummer, seconded by Councillor Keel. Those in favor? Carried. Approval of minutes from December 3rd, 2024. Councillor Plummer, seconded by Councillor Keel. Those in favor? Approved. Any business arising from those minutes? Seeing none. Tonight we have delegations. We have our 2023 City Pembroke audited financial statements. We welcome Rod Sinclair and Mr. Hill, Mr. Mitchell, yes,
Kevin
that's
Mitchell.
right, from Baker Tilly to come forward and present the, but first we have our Madam Treasurer, Ms. Lochte. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Good evening. So under Section 294 of the Municipal Act, a municipality is required to prepare annual financial statements in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. As you will note, these statements are presented a bit later than normal, and this is because the accounting principles changed in 2024 and required the city to capture a new liabilities under the city's asset retirement obligations. So like other municipalities in Ontario, you know, our audited statements are a few months behind the normal schedule. So tonight, as mentioned by our Deputy Mayor, we do have joining us Rod Sinclair as well as Kevin Mitchell from Baker Tilly, who will lead us through a review of the city's 2023 audited financial statements. So you will find those statements at the end of the Finance and Admin Committee package if you'd like to follow along at all. But before I pass the floor over, I just would like to take a minute to recognize Rod's father, Mr. Fred Sinclair, who served the city for many years as an auditor, and I think it was more than 25 years. I mean, certainly we're very sad to hear his passing and really appreciate the many years of service that he provided to the city.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that introduction and kind words. So yeah, as Angela mentioned, I'm here to present the draft audited financial statements for the corporation of the City of Pembroke for the year ended December 31st, 2023. So these statements, they are consolidated. So that means they capture all operating capital activities, the library, business improvement area, water and sewer, the proportionate share, your proportionate share of the Waste Management Board and the airport, as well as it accounts for the 2 hydro utilities on a modified equity basis. These statements, they're primarily for external use, so to assess the city's financial position. So they're looked at by the province, lenders, bonding agencies. There's also a more detailed report. It's called the FIR. It's used by the province and others for like statistical analysis. It's quite detailed. So the next page is the management reports. This is required by PSAB that the CEO and the treasurer kind of sign off on the financial statements. The next page is the index to the financial statements. So it lists the various statements and schedules that are included in the package. Then we get into our independent auditor's report. So it's addressed to members of council, inhabitants, and ratepayers of the corporation of the City of Pembroke. We have audited the consolidated financial statements of the corporation of the City of Pembroke. In our opinion, the accompanying financial statements present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the corporation of the City of Pembroke as at December 31st, 2023, and the results of its operations and changes in net financial assets, cash flows for the year then ended. These statements are in accordance with Canadian public sector accounting standards. So it's a clean audit opinion. We conducted our audit in accordance with Canadian generally accepted auditing standards. The rest of the report kind of details management's responsibilities for the financial statements as well as our responsibilities as auditors, which is to obtain reasonable assurance about whether or not the consolidated financial statements as a whole are free from material misstatement, whether due to fraud or error, and then to issue an auditor's report that includes our opinion. So the rest kind of details some of the things we do as part of our audit procedures. The statements are currently draft formats, so once they're approved by council, we can get rid of the draft watermark and sign the final report. I am happy to report that the audit went very well. We had new standards working through, but we don't have any significant audit findings to report, so that's a good thing. So the next page is the consolidated statement of financial position. So this is basically it's like a snapshot of where the city stood as at December 31st, 2023. So I'll start at the bottom. So your accumulated surplus at the end of 2023 was $172,161,766. So jump of 10.3 million from the previous year. So that's surplus. So it's comprised of, you had net financial assets 24.19 million and non-financial assets of 147.9 million. So net financial assets, so that's comprised of, you had financial assets 54.2 million. So the items that are included in that, cash 21.4 million, investments 11.6 million. There was 1.6 million of taxes receivable at the end of the year, 711,000 of water and sewer receivables at the end of the year. Accounts receivables, a lot of grants, that sort of thing, 4.7 million at the end of the year. And then the other big investment in municipal electric utilities, 14 million. So that's your financial assets. Subtracted from that to get to your net financial assets are financial liabilities. So there's 11.1 million of accounts payable at the end of the year, 616,000 of deferred revenue general, 1.5 million deferred revenue obligatory. So that's mostly federal gas tax money that's deferred. Long-term liabilities, 12.8 million. So no new debt this year. Employees benefits and post-employment standards, 1.8 million. Asset retirement obligations, so that's new, that's 2.1 million. And that replaced the next line, the landfill closure and post-closure liabilities. So total liability, financial liability is 30 million. So that difference there is your net financial assets, and then under non-financial assets, so that's where mostly it's tangible capital assets. So it was at the net book value at the end of the year was 147,381,000. So a big 14.8 million jump from the previous year. That's due to a lot of construction in progress. There's also prepaid expenses included in that. So that's your statement of financial position. The next page is your consolidated statement of operations. So you're showing a healthy surplus for the year. So surplus of 9.7 million, 9,716,924 to be exact. So that's, you had revenues of 50,820,504, less expenses of 41,103,580. On the revenue side, about half your revenue comes from taxation and payments in lieu, 24.9 million. There was 14.6 million in user charges, so that includes water and sewer. Government transfers, 6.7 million. 1.9 million of investment income, penalties and interest, 187,000. Deferred revenue, so that's gas tax money that was recognized, 1.9 million. Investment in municipal utilities, 174,000. Loss on disposal of tangible capital assets, minus 115,000, and then other, 341,000. So that's the revenue. On the expense side, now you'll notice we include, PSAB requires budget numbers to be shown as well as comparative prior year. The budget numbers do not include depreciation of capital assets, so they're not real comparable. That's why you'll notice big differences there. There's 6.8 million of depreciation that's in the actual expenses, not in the budget. So if you factor that in, they become pretty close. But yeah, on the expense side, there's 3,073,000 for general government, 9 million protection to persons and property, transportation services, 6.7 million, environmental services, 11.8 million, health services, 1.8 million, social and family services, 2.4 million, recreation cultural services, 5.1 million, and planning and development, 910,000. That's kind of a real high level overview of the expenses for the year. And then other thing I'll point out on this page is you'll see adjustment to opening accumulated surplus. So this has to do with the new accounting standards for asset retirement obligations. So it actually, in your case, resulted in an increase in your surplus due to the way the landfill asset retirement obligation was accounted for primarily. So there, again, end of year accumulated surplus, 172,161,766. One other thing, maybe I'll mention before I move on, there's, province has a number of financial indicators that they use to evaluate the financial health of the city. So using these numbers, I went through them, and out of the 7, you're considered low risk for everyone. So that's a good thing. So the next page is your statement of change in net financial assets. So overall, your net financial assets went down by 4.5 million, primarily due to just the large amount of, there was 21.9 million of tangible capital assets acquired during the year, and versus only 6.8 million of amortization of tangible capital assets. So that's the biggest driver for the decrease in net financial assets. Next page is your statement of cash flows. So this explains your change in cash position year over year. So again, your cash did go down by 3.6 million. By categories, so the city generated 19.9 million cash from its kind of general operating activities. And then it paid down 1.273 million in long-term liabilities. There was 569,000 used in investing activities, and the big one 21.7 million used in capital activities, so purchase of tangible capital assets primarily. So that's your statement of cash flows. Next schedule is your statement of continuity of reserves. So I won't go through each reserve there, but you can go. You have all the information there. But basically, reserves and reserve funds started the year 23.5 million, ended the year 25.1 million. There. The next page has more detail on the reserve funds. These are reserves supported by cash. Next page, Schedule 3, is your deferred revenue obligatory. So this is very similar to reserves, but it's primarily the federal gas tax money. So it went from 2.19 million to 1.5 million, and it had to do with the use of gas tax money this year. Moving along. So Schedule 4 is your consolidated schedule of tangible capital assets. Again, I apologize for the small print. It's a lot to fit on one page, but basically it shows all the capital assets by asset class and by functional classification. Overall, total cost of capital assets was $272,345,000. It's been depreciated, since they were acquired by 124.9 million. So the net book value of tangible capital assets on this balance sheet was 147.3 million. The next page is your consolidated schedule of accumulated surplus. So this is a good schedule. It basically shows, so that 172.1 million accumulated surplus basically shows where it's located. So there was 10.8 million of reserve funds, 14.3 million of reserves. So there's your 25.1 million of reserves and reserve funds. Then we look at surpluses. So there's 136.2 million of that surplus is invested in tangible capital assets. That's the assets less the debt associated with it. There's a surplus in your general revenue fund, so that'll rolls into next year's budget, 722,000. And then there's deficit landfill operations board, 48,000. And then equity in municipal electric utilities, 14 million. And then a couple of unfunded liabilities, one for employee benefits, post-employment liabilities, 1.8 million. And then the new asset retirement obligations, 2.17 million. So total surplus of 146.9 million, and it gets you to your cumulative surplus of 172 million. Next, Schedule 6 basically breaks down the statement of operations by segment. So total matches the statement of operations. So I won't. And the next page just shows the comparative figures. Then we get into the notes to the financial statements. So Note 1 just describes the accounting policies followed. They're all pretty standard for municipalities, so I won't go into them in much detail there. Skipping ahead to page 21 is where we talk about the changes in accounting policies. So the effective January 1st, 2023, the city adopted, as required, the new asset retirement obligation standards. So this standard requires reporting of legal obligations associated with retirement of certain tangible capital assets, such as asbestos removal in buildings. And as mentioned, it resulted in an increase in your accumulated surplus, 629,000. There's also some other standards that didn't have a real big impact on the city's financial statements regarding financial instruments. Note 3 just discloses cash that's been restricted for reserve funds, 1.7 million. Note 4 breaks down the investments into a little bit more detail. Note 5 talks about, because So as mentioned, the electric utilities are, the city owns 78.38%, so they're reported here. So this is just a lot of numbers that come right from the hydro statements that are included in these statements. So note 6, as you long on page 26, long-term liabilities. So again, as I mentioned, no new debt this year. 12.8 million was the total owing at the end of the year. So the first, there was 60,000 owing on the city's share of the debentures through the Waste Management Board. The second one there at 2.34 million, that was debenture issued for the wastewater and Miramichi Lodge back in 2006. It's at 4.74%. The next one, 2.622 million, that was issued in 2012 for roads and bridges. It's at 3.66%. The next one, 3,468,536, was for the police station in 2015. It's at 3.44%. The next one, 4,278,000 was for the fire hall in 2019. It's at 3.7%. And then the last one is the city's share of the airport hangar from 2014 at 49,963. So next page shows the kind of expected repayments on that long-term liabilities. Note 7 breaks down the employee benefits and post-employment liabilities in more detail. So 1.3 million of that is for post-employee benefits. So that's the city's, it's based on an actuarial calculation, the city's expected cost of providing for extended health and dental benefits for retirees. And then sick leave, 497,000. I won't get into, that's just some of the actuarial calculations that you can look at. Note 8 talks about contaminated sites liabilities standard. And then note 9 gets into the asset retirement obligation standard in more detail. So the two assets retirement obligations identified were the through the landfill, and then the asbestos and other obligations. So page 30 shows kind of a breakdown of where those numbers kind of out of the total liability. And yeah, as basically it's, you take the future liability and it's discounted to today's dollars, so they'll go up, you'll get accreted upwards each year. So start of the year, 2,075,000 and went up by 97,000 to 2.17 million. Note 10 breaks down, so the statement of operations shows expenses by function. This shows them by object. Note 11 just talks about the OMERS pension agreement. Note 13 talks about contractual obligations and commitments. Those are the three identified there: the OPP contract, the waste collection contract, and then construction projects. Note 14 talks about potential contingent liabilities. Note 15. So there's two joint local boards that are included in these statements: the Pembroke and Area Airport Commission. So then we show the total numbers from their statements, as well as the city's share, as well as the Ottawa Valley Waste Management Board on the next page. Note 16 just talks about the budgeted figures. Note 17 kind of breaks down, talks about the segments, gives details on what's included in each segment. And then note 18 just mentions there's some statements, some figures were reclassified this year just to conform with the new presentation. So I don't know how I did for time, but are there any questions?
Well, thank you very much for the detailed report. A lot of work goes into preparing those. Questions, comments, motions? Councillor Frenier?
Just a comment, thank you very much. I'm always very interested in hearing how we rate with those provincial indicators. And we're at a low risk, which is great. In the event we want to take any new debentures out to cover whatever, maybe a group of capital projects we've been putting on the back burner for some time, or anyway, no, that's always what I'm interested in. We've been lucky enough to be at that low risk level for quite some time now, so that's great. I want to thank you tonight for coming, and I'd be prepared to put forward a motion to accept the audited financial statements for 2024.
Three.
Thank you.
Do we have a seconder for that motion? Mayor Gervais? Speakers for the motion, Mayor Gervais?
I was just going to thank you two for coming this evening and providing the reports. And so, as Councillor Lafernier was keying in on, I know former Councillor Scott would always ask about that. And then in general, to sort of look at it from a whole, I take it the position is that the City of Pembroke's in a good financial position.
Yes.
Okay. So, thank you.
Further comments or questions? I just have a comment, echo what the mayor said. It's good to be in a good financial position in case we have large projects that we need to borrow some money, capital infrastructure, et cetera. We also want to thank the finance department of the city for cooperating with you, and we know it's a lot of work to get all the information together, and even the small print, small text. So
Yes, yeah.
thanks again for coming.
Okay.
We have a motion on the floor to accept that the Finance and Main Committee accept the draft consolidated financial statement.
Chair.
Yep.
It'll be accepted with Treasurer Lotchke's report that will follow this presentation.
Okay, well, I thought we needed a motion also. It's a resolution at council? Okay, thank you.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Okay, bye.
Okay.
Hello. Well, so, welcome.
Hi, so with the presentation, I guess we could move straight to the recommendation that the Finance and Administration Committee accept the draft consolidated financial statements for the year ended December 31st, 2023 as final as presented.
So we have a motion,
Yeah.
Already moved it? Perfect.
Okay.
seconder. Mayor Gervais, discussion? Those in favor? Accepted.
Okay.
Thank you very much. We welcome the Fire Department Chief, Sal, with a number of items tonight. The first one is your monthly report for December. Welcome, Chief.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I see everybody is hitting the timeline tonight, so I'll do my best. So this monthly report covers a 3-week period from November 27th to December 19th. We conducted 2 fire drills, one at Med-Eng and one at KI. Fire department worked closely with the building department, and we were both heavily involved with the opening of the warming center at the beginning of December. Staff training was conducted at Marion Hill for 32 staff members. Public safety messaging on Pembroke's Pure Country focused on holiday safety, namely escape planning, smoke alarms, and carbon monoxide detection. We do continue our partnership with Renfrew County Fire Departments with holiday safety messaging in the Eganville Leader. And we also continued our partnership with MyFM and the Fire Marshal's Public Fire Safety Council as we recorded the 12 days of holiday fire safety with MyFM, and we released the daily messaging on our social media pages that reflected each day's message on the radio. We also used our social media platforms to relay special weather statements and warnings, and we really started promoting some winter safety tips resulting from the snowfall that our neighbors to the west have endured in the month of December. A vulnerable occupancy inspection and fire drill was conducted at Marion Hill, and the vulnerable occupancy fire drill was conducted at the Pembroke Regional Hospital. Under emergency management, we conducted our after-action review and exercise follow-up meeting at the end of November, and we also held our final program committee meeting in December as well. The training room hosted 5 additional meetings on top of the normal fire department usage. In December, the association provided hot dogs and chocolate for the Santa Claus Parade participants and staffed the table at the Pembroke Mall for the Kiwanis Toy Drive. The association also filled 5 Christmas angels as part of the Christmas Angel program. Our training for the month of December is outlined in the report. Just 2 new permits and 2 renewals under the recreational open-air burning. Our smoke alarm program, we didn't see a lot of action on that one. Still tested 8 detectors. And number of inspections over that 3-week period was 118. And then our responses for December was 18, with an estimated dollar loss of $4,000 for 1 small fire. And December, in that 3-week period, we did have 1 fine paid, so there are no outstanding fines from 2024.
Chief, for the report. Any questions for the chief? Mayor Gervais?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just building on your comment in your report about public safety messaging, I believe that I saw a public safety message in respect to the ice. I'm just wondering if you had any comments for those watching at home about the ice.
So yes, I know that the OPP and the OPP East Region, they have put out several messages regarding unsafe ice. I know the city has released a recent press release regarding the ice by the Pollution Control Center. But once again, too, in January, I know Pure Country will be running some ads, particularly discussing the ice out here. And of course, you know, no ice is safe ice. And really the weather, although it's been cold the last couple of days, there really is not very much ice out on the river. So please, if you're not a seasoned fisherman who has partaken in outdoor activities all their lives and know how to check the ice as they progress out to their fishing areas, please just stay off the ice at this time. And remember, no ice is safe ice.
Councillor Frenier?
Through the chair, very, very intense topic when you talk about it. People want to get out on the ice, especially, you know, it felt really cold today, and it wasn't that cold. It was -11. It felt a lot colder because of the wind. But if you could explain the way that the ice forms, when you have these melts and freezes and melts and freezes, the way that the ice is formed is also an extra hazard, correct?
That's correct, yes.
Could you explain, you know, how the layering?
It just really
Yeah.
doesn't build up the strength as the way it should be.
That's
With
right.
just a continuous cold period and no thawing. So you get the really thick solid ice in those prolonged cold periods, whereas when it is warm and it freeze thaws, then you get the really thin ice or weak ice. It can look deceiving. So
that's
today we did respond to the marina for an ice call. Fortunately, it wasn't anything overly serious. It could have been very bad, but just beyond the break wall where the lighthouse is, you can still see where the ice has come together through the wave action over with the wind, and it's almost open there still.
Okay.
So
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Things have changed since the 90s when we had the fishing derby and all those vehicles on the river. So the change in the climate, you know. Thank you, Chief. Next item, review the just-in-time agreement with the Red Cross.
So last year, I brought forward the just-in-time agreement, and council approved it. Under the recommendation from Red Cross, they did recommend that we bring this forward to council for their approval at the beginning of every year. So I'll try not to bore you with too much of the background, but just a couple little reminders is that the just-in-time agreement is a pre-populated agreement outlining services that the Red Cross would provide if during an emergency. So basically what would occur would be the city has decided to declare an emergency. The emergency control group has decided that they want to get a Red Cross involved. All that the mayor does is simply sign the form. We decide which services we require that are outlined in the agreement, and we forward that to Red Cross. Now, during the time when Red Cross takes a look at it, they will submit a draft budget. In this draft budget, depending on the size, there may be fees that are required from the city prior, like to basically to get the operation off the ground. But that is dependent on the size of the budget developed by Red Cross. So it may not be applied. So there's two schedules in the agreement that outline some of the services and the costs. If committee agrees to keep this agreement, it would stay as an appendix to the emergency plan. Entering another option would be to enter into a memorandum of understanding with the Red Cross. I don't recommend it at this time because everything that the MOU offers, the just-in-time agreement does provide. However, the MOU does have an annual fee attached to it, and the fee is population-based. I don't have any solid numbers on to see what that MOU would be. A rough estimate would be Ottawa. I believe the city of Ottawa pays roughly $120,000 a year for Red Cross. So, you know, the city of Pembroke may be looking at $1,500, $2,000. However, you know, when we do have those services available to us with that just-in-time agreement and no upfront costs or no annual costs, I wouldn't recommend that one. Now, the emergencies covered under the just-in-time agreement begin at the level 2 type of emergency. So generally, the level 2 type of emergency begins once 25 people have been adversely affected. Below that number, the Red Cross does have a personal disaster assistance program, which the fire service, we utilize that quite regularly with the house fires and when people become displaced. So alternate considerations would be to enter an MOU with Red Cross or to withdraw the JIT and only contact Red Cross for support during emergencies.
Thank you. Questions, comments, or motions? Councilor Frenier?
I guess I would move that we approve the just-in-time agreement, the entering into an agreement with the Canadian Red Cross Society, as we did last year.
Do we have a seconder? Councilor Keel, discussion? Those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Next item, emergency plan update bylaw 2023-75, Chief Sell.
Staff's recommending that the City of Pembroke Finance and Administration Committee approve the update of bylaw 2023-75, a bylaw to authorize and adopt the City of Pembroke's emergency management program and emergency plan to reflect the updated emergency plan as outlined in Schedule A. So if committee approves this, a new bylaw will be forthcoming. So I think over the last few budget meetings, it's come to light that things have changed in respect to expectations of the municipality when it comes to emergencies. So the one thing that with our exercises and with some of the seminars and conferences we've been on, we've noticed that there are some gaps in our emergency plan. So what this new plan is doing is just addressing those gaps. So the Emergency Management Program Committee has approved the new plan and is, of course, supporting the recommendation of the plan to committee. The updated plan now has table of contents for quick reference and defines and we specifically defined purpose and the scope of the plan. The plan also introduces a concept of operations with 4 levels of readiness. So this was a gap identified whenever the initial housing crisis and the drug problem began with the city. So that this is hopefully filling that gap. It builds on the previous plans by narrowing and defining the triggers that would activate the plan as well as activate the Emergency Operations Center. And it streamlines the notification process, specifically which individuals notify which individuals during an emergency. The plan also streamlines tasks and meetings in the EOC during an emergency, stressing the importance of operational periods and planning cycles, and lays out specific agendas to be followed during the planning meetings. We've updated the plan further to incorporate the incident management system, which is used across the province, and it further defines the members' roles in an emergency. And lastly, the emergency notification methods and systems are outlined, as well as the maintenance and review of the plan. So the alternate consideration to this report would be to continue to use the old plan and review again in 2025.
Chief, questions for the chief? Okay, yes, Councillor Plummer.
No questions. I would just move that we accept the updated bylaw.
Do we have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Frenier, discussion? Those in favor? Carried. Thank you very much, Chief. You did a great time, good with the time there, eh? Okay, have a good evening. With that, could I have a motion to adjourn? Councillor Plummer, seconder Councillor Keel, those in favor? We are adjourned.
Good evening, everyone. Moving forward with the striking committee this evening for January 7th, I call this meeting to order. Are there any disclosure of pecuniary interest in respect to this agenda? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion for the approval of this agenda. I have the Deputy Mayor seconded by Councillor Plummer. Those in favor? And that is carried. The last set of minutes for striking committee was December 3rd, 2024. I'd entertain a motion for their approval. I have moved by Councillor Plummer, seconded by the Deputy Mayor. Those in favor? That is carried. Any business arising out of those minutes? Seeing none. I understand, Councillor Frenier, you have a motion to move into a closed session.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Keel. Neither did I. Thank you. So a motion to move into a striking committee and caucus meeting, January 7th, moved by myself, second by Councillor Ian Keel, that this meeting become a closed meeting to discuss personal matters about identifiable individuals, including municipal or local board employees, regarding membership to the Renfrew County Joint Services Community Services Committee, as per Section 239-2B of the Municipal 2001, as amended. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. You did too. I thought it was just.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Lafreniere,
There were
second
so
by
many
Councillor
other
Keel, that
things.
this meeting become a closed meeting to discuss personal matters about identifiable individuals, including municipal or local board employees, regarding membership to the Renfrew County Joint Services Community Services Committee as per Section 239-2B of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended. Those in favor? That is carried. We'll now move into a closed session. So a striking committee and caucus meeting was held just now to discuss personnel matters about identifiable individuals, including municipal or local board employees regarding membership to the Renfrew County Joint Services Community Services Committee as per section 239 sub 2 sub B of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended. There was no pecuniary interest declared. A report concerning membership to this committee and the individuals being recommended for the appointment to the committees will be discussed later in the agenda, which is now. So new business. So in terms of a report, is that coming from Madam Clerk or Mr. Unruh?
Yeah, Your Worship, I'll provide the report.
Thank you.
So the recommendation is that the City of Pembroke Striking Committee endorse and recommend to Council the appointment of the following individuals to the following committee boards. County of Renfrew Joint Services Community Service Committee, Councillor Frenier and Councillor Purcell. County of Renfrew Joint Services Health Committee, Councillor Jacquinot and Mayor Gervais. Yeah, that's all I had to report.
Sorry, talking and
Sorry.
not hitting the mic.
Sorry, I was just looking at that they actually is reversed. So so the County of Renfrew Joint Services Health Committee will be Councillor Frenier and Councillor Purcell. The County of Renfrew Joint Services Community Services Committee will be Councillor Jacquinot and Mayor Gervais. I apologize for that mistake.
So I recognize that's coming forward at council, but do you want that as a motion by someone here, and or are you just going to bring it forward at council?
Just to accept the endorsement at striking, and then a further report
Okay.
will be brought to council.
So is there a motion to that effect? I have Councillor Keel, second by Deputy Mayor. Those in favor? That is carried. A motion to adjourn striking, moved by Councillor Keel, second by the Deputy Mayor. Those in favor? That is carried. That concludes striking committee. Evening, everyone. I'd like to call this regular council meeting to order for January 7th. I would ask everyone to please take an opportunity to stand for an opening prayer or reflection. Before opening this meeting of council, I would ask those who wish, each in your own way, silently join in a prayer of guidance over these proceedings. Thank you. Are there any disclosure of pecuniary interest in relation to this meeting of council? Seeing none. Minutes. Approval of the minutes of council, December 17th, 2024, and entertain a motion for their approval. Moved by Councillor Lafreniere, second by Councillor Plummer. Those in favor? That is carried. Adoption of minutes. First up is Finance and Admin Committee, December 3rd, 2024. Moved by Councillor Keel, second by Councillor Plummer. Those in favor? That is carried. Next is Planning and Development Committee, December 3rd, 2024. I have moved by Councillor Keel, second by Councillor Plummer. Those in favor? That is carried. Last, Striking Committee, December 3rd, 2024. Moved by the Deputy Mayor, second by Councillor Lafreniere. Those in favor? That is carried. No delegations, no business.
Yes, your striking committee of council begs to report and recommend from its meeting held this evening as follows. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Ian Keel, that Councillor Jackno and Mayor Jerva be appointed to the Renfrew County Joint Services Committee, and that Councillor Lafreniere and Councillor Purcell be appointed to the Renfrew County Joint Services Health Committee until the end of the current term of council.
Moved by Councillor Lafreniere, second by Councillor Keel, that Councillor Jackano and myself be appointed to the Renfrew County Joint Services Committee, and that Councillor Lafreniere and Councillor Purcell be appointed to the Renfrew County Joint Services Health Committee until the end of the current term of councillor. Councillor Lafreniere, any comments?
Well, this was just covered earlier. This is sort of a restructuring that the county has decided to do on its committees that the city has representation on. And as most people know, we do pay quite a bit of money for the shared services that the county manages for us. So this is just a restructuring.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Next, under bylaws, 2025-02, borrowing bylaw, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Andrew Plummer, the bylaw 2025-02 to provide for current borrowing for the City of Pembroke for the year 2025 be adopted and passed, and further that the said bylaw be signed by the Mayor and Clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation.
Thank you. Moved by the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Plummer, bylaw 2025-02 to provide current borrowing for the City of Pembroke for the 2025 year be adopted and passed, and further said bylaw be signed by the Mayor and Clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. This bylaw is to provide for current borrowing for the City of Pembroke for the year 2025. This is required by the Bank of Montreal to permit short-term borrowing if required for the 2025 fiscal year. Thank you.
You call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Next, Councillor Plummer, 2025-03, interim tax levy for 2025.
Thank you. Moved by myself, second by the Deputy Mayor, that bylaw 2025-03 to provide for an interim tax levy for the year 2025 be adopted and passed. Further said bylaw be signed by the Mayor and Clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Plummer, seconded by the Deputy Mayor, the bylaw 2025-03 to provide an interim tax levy for the year 2025 be adopted and passed, and further said bylaw be signed by the Mayor and Clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Councillor Plummer?
This is a bylaw to provide the interim tax levy for the year 2025. The Section 317 of the Municipal Act allows municipalities to establish an interim tax levy of the adoption of the final budget each year of up to 50% of the prior year's annual taxes. This annual bylaw will set the interim tax billing due dates of 2025, which shall be March 31st and May 30th. The interim levy will provide the city with necessary cash flow to meet its needs, as well as local school boards through educational portion of tax levied.
Thank you. Call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Motions, Deputy Mayor, Resolution 2025-01.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Andrew Plummer. Be it resolved that the Corporation of the City of Pembroke hereby accept the draft consolidated financial statements presented for the year ended December 31st, 2023 as final.
Thank you. Moved by the Deputy Mayor and seconded by Councillor Plummer. Be it resolved that the Corporation of the City of Pembroke hereby accepts the draft consolidated financial statements presented for the year ending December 31st, 2023 as final. Deputy Mayor?
Your Worship, tonight we had our city auditors give our financial statement and report for the year ended December 31st, 2023. And the main comment and highlight was that the city is at low risk and in good standing with the province of Ontario. Thank you.
Thank you. Those in favor? That is carried. Mayor's report. Good evening, everyone. I wish to bring forward my mayor's report at this time. In respect to 2024 being behind us, marks the halfway mark of this term of council. In this past year, we've accomplished a great deal in many areas to entice people to live, work, invest, and play in the beautiful city of Pembroke. I will be providing further comment at future council meetings, but wish to convey that council together with staff, we will continue to work for the ratepayers of the beautiful city of Pembroke. Regarding invitations, appearances, and other matters, on December 21st, there was the pleasure of the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Keel, and myself attending the grand opening of Chuck's Roadhouse, located on Pembroke Street West. Certainly, I would recommend this restaurant to anyone, and certainly a great time is always had when attending there. Everything is reasonably priced, and such a tasty, tasty meal. Special thank to staff, in particular Miss Sutherland, for bringing together this grand opening with the owners. January 1st, I had the pleasure of attending Branch 72 New Year's Levee. It is always a great time when attending the Pembroke Legion on any occasion, and it's a great way to bring forward a new year with the executive members of the Legion and the public at large, and just to build on the momentum in terms of conferences. I understand that Pembroke Legion Branch 72 will be hosting a conference again this year in April, I believe it was. January 6th, Councillor Giacono, the CEO, and I attended the Warming Centre meeting. We've been informed that there is approximately 50 homeless individuals residing in the county area. The Warming Centre, we understand, is very busy. There is plans for an open house later this month. There's certainly a great amount of collaboration going on with this initiative. I conclude this evening, as I've indicated earlier, at a special council meeting with a moment of silence, that it is with deep sadness that I announced that the former councillor of the city of Pembroke, Joyce Moore Cowan, has passed away despite a courageous battle with cancer. She was very community-minded and involved in many, many different things, including Kiwanis Club of Pembroke and the Kiwanis Music Festival. Certainly a beautiful soul that will be greatly missed by all of those that knew her in the community. She was 81. And as always, stay safe and be kind to one another. Are there any notices of motion this evening? Seeing none, councillor updates. Councillor Keel?
Your Worship, I just want to advise that Dorian Pierce, of course, has taken over as the Director of Festival Hall. And later this month, Descendants, the musical, will be playing at Festival Hall. This is a Streetlight Theatre production. So the dates are January 31st, February 1st, February 2nd, February 7th, February 8th, and then there are many more things on the calendar. The new website for Festival Hall is Festival Hall spelled out fully. It used to be Fest Hall. It's now festivalhall.ca, and there are now items on the calendar going all the way into the fall, Your Worship.
Thank you, and I believe a new social media.
There is also a new Festival Hall Facebook page. So the old one was accidentally deleted. So anybody out there, if you think the Festival Hall Facebook page looks a little different and the other social media, that is also all new as well at this point.
Looks fabulous. Councillor Frenier?
I just want to wish everyone a happy new year, and I want to thank the sponsors, and there's a few of them around the table, for the free skates that took place at the PMC. I attended, and specifically one day with my granddaughter. She was so excited that she actually met the deputy mayor, and I don't know if he remembers that, but yeah, that's right. So I want to thank again, and I know that the free skates were well attended, all of them. And again, I want to thank you very much, and I don't want to send anybody out, but I know Deputy Mayor sponsored the mayor, and I believe Councillor Keel, no? Okay, you've sponsored other things in the past.
March break.
Oh, March break. Well, thank you very much again.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. Yes, I had the pleasure of my wife and I sponsoring one of the hours, and I did see you there and met your daughter. Yeah, it's very nice, and had my Leaf jersey on. Got some mostly positive comments, but you know how it is with that. On the 14th of December, my wife and I attended the Subbles Landing Seniors Christmas Concerts, which the city graciously sponsors every year with Louis Schreier and friends. And I can tell you that I brought greetings from the city, and Louis and his group, they do 7 concerts in 2 days, which is a really big feat. And they were very well appreciated. And, you know, when we talked about this at our committee level, the Seniors Advisory Committee, a few years ago, Councillor Fenny and I were talking about it and brought it to the committee. And the idea was to, you know, you couldn't bus everyone to Festival Hall, so we went to every home, and so it's worked out really well. It comes from the seniors budget item with Parks and Recreation, so we want to thank the Parks and Rec Committee for sponsoring that every year, and we hope we can continue that. Councillor Keel and I and the CEO will be attending the Rural Ontario Municipal Association Conference in Toronto, the 19th of January to 21st. We have some delegations with different ministries, and also some workshop presentations to attend on affordable housing, homelessness, and other topics. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Keel, confirming bylaw.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Lafreniere, that bylaw 2025-04 to confirm the proceedings of the regular meeting of council of January 7th, 2025 be adopted and passed, and further that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Keel, seconded by Councillor Lafreniere, that bylaw 2025-4 to confirm the proceeding of the regular meeting of council January 7, 2025 be adopted and passed, and further said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Those in favor? That is carried. Motion to adjourn. I have the Councillor Keel, seconded by Councillor Plummer. Those in favor? That is carried. We are adjourned. Thank you.